Yo, Pan, you ready? Yeah. Man, let's lock and load. Yeah.
Right, so this is Christian here, our Very Fitness podcast. We have got here Natalie Rice. Oh, it's not like, are you still Natalie Rice?
Yeah, still Natalie Rice. not married yet.
Not married yet, all right. Yes, we've got Natalie Rice here. She's a yoga instructor and been doing it for many years. But Natalie's going to basically fill you in all that, what she does and where she's based. And over to you, Natalie.
Perfect. Well, first of all, thank you, Christian, for having me on and allowing me to have a little chat with you.
No problem.
So I originally come from a dancing background. I've done dancing for years, trained in London. And I loved it. I had a bit of a problem being told how high to kick and where my arm had to be. But, it was my passion. It was how I moved my body. And I also love to travel. So I was really grateful for many years to combine the two. And then yoga has always sort of been in the background. My mum grew up a little bit in India. So she was always doing like headstands in the kitchen. But to be honest, it was a bit boring for me. I was only looked at it from the physical aspect, and it was just stretching. I didn't understand all the underlay. So for me, from this dancer's background and being perfect, and everything had to be in alignment, it was just boring. And then my dad passed. And my dad passed about 10 years ago now. And it was the same time as Yoga Euphoria opened. So I went and I thought it was a really nice sort of distraction for my mum, for me, something for us to do. And then after time, it just offered a space. It offered a space for me to move my body, but get out my head and sort of get out of the thoughts, which you naturally, when you're grieving and it's like everything around you is just chaotic. If anyone's ever lost someone, that's sort of sensory and you're not really here, if that makes sense. So to be able to just have that space on my mat and those whizzing thoughts to just get regulated, but I was at the same time connecting with my body. I was moving it, not being told how to move it, directly. I was doing it for my body. That's what sort of planted my seed, if you like, of this feels good and I like this. And then I wanted to know more. I wanted to look into the philosophy, look into the spirituality and the teaching. So I packed off to India, me and Mum. And yeah, we did our teacher trainings. We were 8 weeks intensely living in India, which was incredible. And I came back just different, just stepped away from the dancing sort of completely there. That sort of, don't get me wrong, I can still dance and I love a dance.
Yeah.
But it had become a chore to me, if you like. And I wasn't doing it for me or feeling good and moving my body for me. Whereas then yoga allowed me to do that. So I wanted to share it. So that's why I went into doing the teaching and where I am now.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. No, I think I understood at the beginning what you were saying about yoga. I've always I've said it many times to people. I love to get into yoga, me personally, but because I'm quite an active person, before we talk about my active mind and that, I always think it's a bit boring and stuff and all that. But honestly, I can understand the benefits in it. And probably now, as I'm getting older, I'm probably more thinking, I wish I did have a bit more time. And I'm sure at some stage I will probably get into yoga and I probably will come and see you myself to do some yoga and that, because I need that stretching and stuff and the mobility and that. Obviously I've got decent mobility from training and stuff, but sometimes I feel like a good stretch and to have that mindful clearness and that was
I think the thing that connects us is you're in the movement industry, yourself, so how important it feels to move your body. You're just moving it in a different way that I'm doing it. You're doing it not just for the physical aspects, it's the mental aspects as well, and what it creates then after it, your routines, your habits, that mindset, it all plays its part, doesn't it? But you've got that movement.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I think it's definitely something that most people should bring into their lives, and that, especially as you get older, because as life goes on, things become hard, stressful, and stuff like that. So sometimes it's good to have a bit of kind of meditation, stretch the body, move the body, give the body a bit of rather than being stressed, or even do what I kind of do, where you put a bit of stress on your body by lifting heavy weight. Sometimes it's nice to be able to stretch and to calm the body down and calm the mind down. So now I think yoga is a big thing, and you can see that now in the industry. It's massive in the industry.
Yeah, definitely. It is coming up, and it's getting the recognition, you know. And I think we were mentioning a little bit before, like, it's amazing that it's getting out there more and more, and people are, you know, appreciating it. And I just, the whole time, like, for me, and definite as an advocate of the well-being, I don't want it to always be some kind of perfectism that has to be created with it. It's not like a sport, if you understand me. It's a movement. It's everyone is so different, and I sort of step away from the strict rules and regulations, if you like, of certain like Ashtanga or Hatha or certain strict practices of yoga. I am like just finding the ability in your body, moving for your body, what feels good.
Oh, definitely, definitely. Yeah, I mean, the most important thing as well, like you said, get the body moving, you know.
Yeah, that's it. You know, whether it's the day to day, isn't it? Whether you're stretching up for something on the top shelf, you want to have the mobility and to be able to do that all the time, or whether you're bending down for something, you want to have the stability and the strength to be able to do that, isn't it? So it's bringing it into your day-to-day life.
Yeah, oh, definitely. I mean, obviously, the majority of the clientele I train are older people and that, and there's one thing that we always talk about is keeping the body moving, making the body stronger, you know, just moving it, because I think as people get older and stuff, we get more sedimented. We've sat down a lot more. We're not moving as much as we should do. And the human body is supposed to move. It's the vessel of you, you know, as a person. And that. So if you just sat down, don't move in that, you do seize up. It's like a lot of clients I get come to me, and if they haven't been training or not, you know, could be even over the age of 35, to be fair, younger. When I first get them to do squats, they're like, "Oh, my knees are sore." I said, "All right, you know, been squatting a lot or anything." "Oh no, it's the first time your knees are sore." It's probably because they've never been in a
because they've not had it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's a lot of, you know, I've got a bad back, or what you're doing, or I'm just not moving it. And it's like, oh, it's just going to get stiffer and stiffer. You know, it's I completely get what you mean. It's getting that movement into your bodies.
Yeah, I mean, going back, if like you say, we've been going to India and that. I mean, if you look at a lot of them Indian residents in their 60s, 70s, they squat right down, bum to the floor. Like, you know, you look at, obviously you've got young ones like myself. You know, when you watch them playing with their toys, they literally sit into that natural
into that couch. Yeah, we call it in yoga. It's called the Malasana spot. I can remember in India, like, young lads would be cutting grass in that position. And now, even me personally, who's been doing it forever, like, I can probably do it for about 5 minutes. And I'm like, oh, you know, imagining someone who's not got that mobility through the knees, the hips, you know, through the length of the hamstrings. It only gets better by doing it, doesn't it? By practicing it, creating that mobility.
Definitely, practice makes perfect. Definitely. So what, you know, the type of yoga, what kind of methods that you find in your yoga that you practice to people is better for your clients in your eyes than what other types of yoga are out there?
Yeah. So I'll be dead honest. Especially in the studio, we cater for all sorts. I was very much Alan, and I was Ashtanga, and that's all I wanted to do. Ashtanga. It's very strict. And I remember someone saying to me, you know, choose a category you want to go into, if you like, a line of work within yoga. And I found it really difficult. It felt a bit like I was being told what to do with dancing. You know, you could either be a tap dancer or a performing artist. And it's just something within me to be put in a box makes me want to rebel a little bit and go the opposite. And at the time I wanted to do kids yoga. That was where I sort of initially started. And so I was doing Ashtanga for me. I was doing kids yoga as teaching. But I realized that some days I didn't feel like doing Ashtanga. You know, I felt like a slower practice, or other days I wouldn't want a set routine. I'd just want a flowing routine. So within the studio, I really wanted to cater to that. I didn't want, just one style of yoga practice, because I believe in every style you can take something. So we offer a huge variety, from yin, which is more about the joints and the tissues, and it's all lying down, to full on hot yoga, which is vinyasa, and it's about getting the heart rate up and moving the body, through quite some of them repetitive movements to get that strength as well. But I find, like, for me personally, like, I've got the absolute honor to see it in people. I can see the change that it brings to people. I can feel it. We live in a yang world where everything's stimulation. It's at its intense. Everything's at the speed of light, tips of our fingers. And if we're not rushing, if we're not the top of our game, it brings around this sense that we're failing. And I see that in people who come in from a day at work, and you come into the studio like with the weight of the world is on the shoulders. You can feel heavy in energy. It's just physically, the structure of them is slightly shrunked over. And then an hour within the studio, or one-on-one, or whatever it is, meditation, you get this sense that that's been lifted. And it's just that, if you want to call it self-care, but just that time for themselves, just not to be stimulated, to just sort of disconnect from everything going on outside them, so they can connect with themselves. Just 100%. Check in.
100%. It's like I always say to my clients, I always try and get them on a regular booking. Currently for most clients, I just do twice a week, and I'll just say, just look at that hour on them certain days that you come in is your time, when you energize yourself by doing weight training and being physically fit, and that becomes part of your lifestyle.
Yes. Incredible. Yeah. And you'll see it. I mean, I bet for you yourself, and in the business that we're in, it's such privilege, isn't it? Because we'll get to see people come in probably, unsure what to do, or even not connected to the body, or all these signs flying at them, low in confidence. And then you get to, over time, see them open up, and you get to see them become more confident and more in tune with the body, and this positivity from it. And to think that you have a tiny little part within that transition, I think it's incredible. Like, for us on our level.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I love this industry. That's why I'm very much a people person like yourself, and if you can help people in that. I mean, sometimes I post some transformations and that, but sometimes even if you've got someone to lose excuse me, a certain amount of weight, or to get to looking a lot more healthy and better, sometimes just achieving someone's mental look on life and the way they feel just as a good transformation as a physical transformation as well.
100%. Because if you like, especially when we talk about like yoga, we say your first layer is your physical layer. That's the one that is most, getting the stimulation. It's the bit we see, we sort of, put on our limits or whatever with that physical, but it's the energetical body, it's the mindset, the mental body, it's all connected, isn't it? And if you're not feeling good on the outside, it's either carrying on to the inside, or it's from the inside going outwards, so they both have a huge play within each other's roles.
Oh, definitely, especially the way the world is these days.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, that's one of my things, going back to like being with the kids. Like, I'm honored to be in schools. I get to teach full-time in schools, and for me, like, stuff that I learned, like I wish I'd learned, at school, of how to, if my body is going through what is now, I know, a panic attack, or intense stress or worry, how to regulate that, or how to calm the nervous system down, or breathe properly. you know, so much of society don't breathe properly because we're all registering in this fight or flight a little bit more. We're chest breathing rather than, you know, diaphragmatic breathing, which it's like we're always on this sort of spinning wheel, if you like, and eventually it has to spin off, doesn't it?
Oh,
So
yeah.
to be able to go into schools and just say, like, you know, even if half the time they don't practice it straight away, if 10 years later they go, I had this crazy teacher come in once who used to tell me to, you know, do this, this, and this, or trace your finger around your hand and regulate it with your breath. And if they do that and it just calms them for that moment, you know, when they're suddenly self-regulating, for me, that's like tick. That's why I'm here.
Definitely. So what would you say has been your biggest career or fitness achievement to date?
Wow, incredible. So I think fitness wise would be to just always appreciate my body. And that's been difficult at times, you know, especially coming from a dancing background, and your physique, and like we were saying, is everything. What you're judged upon, you know, first thing in auditions, they'll look at you first. To then going and being comfortable with your body and what you're eating, what you're feeding it, and then seeing it change from being pregnant. You know, my body's done the amazing job of carrying 2 babies. So it's been, I think, and always will be, that goal to be happy with my body. Do you know what I mean? And just that it is mobile and that it's strong and it's moving. And like you said, we only get one. So I'm here to look after this body.
Yeah, I mean, you just want to tick all the boxes and that. I think sometimes people put too much pressure. And again, I think it's going before we came on, talking about social media, what will people see and stuff like that. You need to understand, and I think I always say to people, it's like when I'm creating a program for people. Sometimes when I sit there and they want to train 4 or 5 times a week and stuff, and then you're asking how the lifestyle, or if they've done any fitness before. And it's trying to engage. Like sometimes I'll tell them, so look, you know, I don't think we should look at about 4 or 5 at first. Maybe look at about a couple of sessions a week, because sometimes it's about the quality rather than quantity, and it's about basically working your body with what you can actually do. You know, and being happy with it, rather than putting too much pressure on yourself. Because I think some people think they should look like this, but sometimes you've got to look at your life. You know, obviously when you've got children and stuff, kids come first half the time. Mm-hmm. I always say to people, like, you need to look after yourself as well. It's something I always say to my wife Emma, you know, as much as we look after kids, and definitely 100% we do that, but also you need to look after yourself, because to be a good parent, or not necessarily a good parent, but to be physically fit and be mobile for your children, you've got to be there. And
yeah, exactly. I mean, you want to be able to run around with them. You want to be able to catch them. You don't want to be struggling in that sense physically, or, you know, be too overwhelmed in thoughts that you're not there for them, like when they need you. You know, you're taking on 2 really when you have kids, aren't you, or 3 or 4, that the mental stability as well.
Yeah, so like I said, I just always say to people, you always should sort of look after you physically. You should just think about where you are, does it pile into your life and all that. You know, so long as you're healthy, which is the most important thing. So long as you're well, so long as you've got some strength in that. And, you know, over time, you might find yourself a little bit more time where you can add things that are not quite there, and from a physical aspect. So say if you want to be a bit stronger, but you haven't got the time to go to them to get a bit stronger, you know, just do what you can for now, and then you can build up to that. So like I say to clients, maybe start off with a couple of sessions a week, and if we've got the time, we're doing well, and we want to build on that, then maybe we'll go to 3 or 4. Don't sometimes put yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not like it should do this and we should do it all. And, you know, do it because it's feeling good, and let it be a gradual process. Don't have to be, you know, instant results straight away. It's changing over the time, isn't it?
Yeah.
So definitely that for fitness. And I think for like career, it's forever changing, forever evolving. You know, if you'd have asked me 8 years ago, it'd be to get my yoga qualification. And then it would have been to travel and teach. And yeah, and it's up to date, always changing. Probably, you know, my most recent one would be having the studio and being able to do festivals and retreats.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Brilliant. No, it's a great achievement. Obviously, I've got my own studio in that, and I think if you can get yourself in a position where you can have your own place and do the things that you want to do, I think that's a fantastic achievement.
Yeah.
And where would you see yourself in 5 years?
Okay. So another one, when I was thinking about this, I was like, oh my goodness, I'll have an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old. I was like, that's scary in itself. And to be honest, I think just doing what I'm doing and making sure I'm at this constant, and I'm sure a lot of people are, of keeping my boundaries, you know, keeping a work-life balance and making sure that I'm happy, you know, as well as everyone around me are doing the best that they are.
Yeah.
I mean, materialistically, I'd like to have a retreat abroad and a space just like Mandala, but offering it abroad, so I could be doing, you know, both and reaching out to more people. And I think that's it. I think that as long as I'm connecting with more people, for me, that's it. You know, I want to be, I love yoga, and I love that passion that I have for it, and the one of the knowledge, and I want to continue to keep learning. I will be like the forever student. But what I know, I want to try and share that as much as I can, you know, to those around me, whether that's for one class, whether it's for 10 classes, to be able to empower someone or give them, you know, a few tools, I can't say that one, a few tools, yeah, so that they can go away and they don't need me. They're able to do it within their life. Like that's a goal for me, yeah, to just help someone any way I can, and then they can share their light, and hopefully that will go to someone else, and, you know, let it keep connecting. Brilliant. To everyone around us.
Oh, sounds fantastic. Sounds very good. So where can people find you?
So I am at Mandala Studios in Birkdale, just off Alma Road, and we are there mornings, evenings. We have an array of classes from baby yoga with all aglow, and we have chair yoga starting as well coming in. We have back and joint mobility. We have cold, warm temperature yoga and hot yoga.
Excellent. Brilliant. Oh, you do a lot then there, don't you?
Yeah, we've got the full away. We've got kids yoga as well. So
yeah. Do you do anything online training or anything like that?
I don't at the moment. I did all the way through lockdown, yeah, and offered that platform. But then no, I do still like my one-to-ones, and some of them will go on Zoom and things like that, or I'm going to houses more. But yeah, and then in the daytimes at schools.
Okay. Have you got any social media pages or anything?
I sure do. It's Mandala Studios. Oh my goodness, let me check that, because it might be Mandala Yoga Studios. We are. And then Facebook's Mandala Yoga Studios in Southwark. That's what I was saying about the social media. Yeah, and it's Mandala Yoga Studios.
Yoga Studios. Brilliant. Right, well, thanks very much, Natalie. That's been fantastic. Really enjoyed that.
And me too. It's lovely. Yeah. And thank you for what you're doing and getting it out there. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah, no problem. No problem at all. And hopefully we can do this again.
100%. Fab. Thanks, Christian.
You take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Right.